The Eagles make a blockbuster trade during their bye week as they trade for Michael Carter. Get excited. How could you not be? Yeah, the Eagles trade John Mechie in a 2027 6th-round pick for Michael Carter and a 2027 7th-round pick. Essentially just trading a spot in a wide receiver for a more position of need right now in cornerback. I think anyone that's watched the Eagles this season would agree that, yeah, cornerback is a spot that they need some help in. It hasn't been great. They're getting Bennett back. He was, I believe, activated from the IR, so he should be back after the bye week, and he's at least practicing. But still, they haven't filled the void that was left when Darius Slay was let go and went to Pittsburgh. And I think you've seen that a little bit with the play from Quinyon Mitchell this year. Like, he hasn't been bad by any stretch of the means. I mean, the one week he was going to see Defensive Player of the Week. He's been really good. I just have noticed this season, as opposed to last, he's getting burnt a little bit more. There are more plays where you go, oh, like he got away with one because he was, holding on to a shirt or a jersey or something like that. And I think that is a byproduct of the fact that they don't really have a cornerback on the outside. Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo just haven't really been it. They haven't been horrible necessarily, but they just haven't been it. So this trade is a good spot to up the depth, I guess. I mean, John Mechie, it's amazing. As soon as I start doing these videos, my dogs are like, let me walk around. Let me start eating food. Let me drink water. The John Mechie trade to me didn't make a lot of sense at the moment. It was very similar in the Jahan Dotson deal a year prior, where it's like you just looked at the roster, and I didn't think they really had a hole at wide receiver, especially because of the fact that they had Jahan Dotson. But either way, the Eagles thought that they could get a reclamation project in John Mechie. They didn't give up a lot for him, but as Zach Berman pointed out on his Twitter account at ZBerm, that they thought that John Mechie could possibly be their 4th wide receiver, but Darius Cooper, the undrafted free agent, kind of solidified himself in that spot. So because of that, it left John Mechie a man without an island. I'll be fully transparent here. I forgot John Mechie was on the team. Like, fully forgot he was on the team. So I don't have any problem with this move because you're trading a guy in John Mechie who didn't seem to really have a future here for a cornerback that a couple of years ago was like a diamond in the rough by the Jets. I mean, so much so that they gave him a pretty nice contract extension. So if he can come in and he can, play the slot, which is what primarily he was doing with the New York Giants, and you're going to be able to move Cooper DeJean to the outside, I think that's going to benefit a lot of people. It's worth mentioning that Joe Douglas, who is working with the Eagles right now, was the guy that drafted Michael Carter in the draft, so there's obviously a familiarity there. But when I had Zach Berman on a couple weeks ago, one of the things he brought up is like, just put your guys in the best position, meaning don't just put Cooper DeJean in the slot because that's what you've been doing. If Cooper DeJean can cover on the outside in the slot and you have a really good wide receiver on the outside, put him on that wide receiver. This might be able to give you the luxury of doing that, of moving some guys around, of filling some voids, and not just having Cooper DeJean in the slot because that's just what you've been doing since you drafted him. You might be able to actually fill that void that I talked about on the outside with Cooper DeJean, and then you just fill the slot. I do think when you find a really good slot cornerback, it's definitely worth keeping. And in a weird way, I feel like it's easier to find like the guys on the outside that have failed. Sometimes they go on the inside and they shine. And Avonte Maddox is a prime example of that. Michael Carter, as I said, was really, really good slot cornerback with the Jets until injuries kind of derailed him there for a bit. But I think this move is a low risk, high reward move for a team that didn't have a ton of depth at that spot. And because of the way that their offense is structured, if an A.J. Brown, we just saw it, right? Like A.J. Brown goes down, he's out for a week, and the offense explodes. I'm not saying that you don't need A.J. Brown. It's like, you watched the game the other day, and you're like, imagine if A.J. Brown was on the field, how much of a bloodbath it would be. But I think this offense can survive without a John Mechie. And if A.J. Brown were to miss some time, or if Devontae Smith were to miss some time, at this point I do have faith in Jahan Dotson to be able to fill the void there for a little bit until they come back healthy. Whereas cornerback, I don't think anybody's comfortable, and I think that was a position where we looked at going into the trade deadline as like, well, they might have to address it. I guess they just did. Now this is going to afford them the luxury of just trading for a defensive end, which is another position of need. They're going to get Nolan Smith back. Brandon Graham will be making his debut after the bye week, although you have to question how much does he have left in the tank. How much of the Brandon Graham signing was just simply getting a good guy back in the locker room who can keep things light, keep things jovial. And yeah, he can get in there and stop the run a little bit, but I'm not banking on like 6 sacks from BG. He's going to be fresh for sure, but you can't really bank on the production level coming in being at a high one. I think he's a rotational defensive end. I think he would tell you that. So even though he's coming back, I just don't view him as like that's the answer to the pass rush that has been lacking. Although last week they got after Jackson Dart. They did a really good job of getting after Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart did a really good job of evading the tacklers. It leads me to believe like Jackson Dart's going to be a problem in this league for a while once he gets some legit weapons in there. He did all that without Malik Neighbors and stuff and a patchwork offensive line. But the reality is they're not going to trade for guards. They're not going to trade for an offensive lineman at the deadline. You just don't really see it because the offensive line is such a cohesive unit and they have to work together and build that chemistry. So at this point, Tyler Steen is what we have. And the other position we need is defensive end. So I think when you went into the trade deadline or when you're going into the trade deadline, I think the 3 positions you looked at for the Birds that they could improve upon were cornerback, defensive end, and offensive line. And as I just pointed out, you're not going to trade for an offensive lineman. Cornerback they just traded for, and defensive end would be the last piece that you can go, okay, we can probably get a pretty good player there for pretty cheap because at that point teams are kind of just looking to unload for a 4th or 5th round pick. Got to remember a couple of years ago they traded for Robert Quinn, former 16 sack guy, and they traded a 4th round pick for him. And that didn't work out, but as I will point out till I'm blue in the face, that didn't work out, but that was the year that they had Sean Desai and Matt Patricia, and none of the defensive players knew what they were doing that year. So I can't really blame him. I believe that was the year. I know that was the Kevin Byard year, but I think that was the Robert Quinn year. But hey, you know what? Hey, 4th, 5th round pick, you're going to get those, and you can easily get those back. So I like the move, but it's not like I'm sitting here going like Super Bowl. I still think they're a really, really good football team. They're 5-2. No, they're 6-2. I'm all over the place today. Hit thumbs down for that. They're 6-2. They, I think at this point, have pretty much locked up the division. It's not official, obviously. They haven't clinched it, but the next best team is 3-4-1, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. You need an epic collapse. I don't see it coming. The Eagles looked really, really good heading into the bye week, and I think that that's worth mentioning, that they can build upon that and feel good about themselves going into the bye week. So, but yeah, this was, I think, the first move that the Eagles have made, but I don't think it'll be the last move. I think you'll see a bigger move and more of a name recognition move. I don't see it being a Jannard Avery move, but I see that this move is kind of the Jannard Avery move, if you will. This move is that low-risk, high-reward move, whereas the bigger move for the veteran, proven commodity who just needs a change of scenery, I think that move is coming. Now is the part where I ask you guys to subscribe. Hit thumbs up, smash the thumbs down button if you thought this sucked, but I need subscribers, so please subscribe so I can continue to feed my dog over there who decided he wasn't going to eat all day and now he's looking at me like, me? You're the one filming on my dinner time. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Go Birds.
All right, joining me now is a guy that is my pop-up, my former coworker, Bob Cooney. Bob, how are you?
I'm well, Patrick. How are you?
Good. Now, you mentioned before we started recording, put on your hockey helmet because I desperately need a haircut. It's not great. I think we can all acknowledge that. And I said, wait,
you kind of have helmet head right now. Yes.
It's not. Look, it's. I am aware. Okay. All right.
You have a good head of lettuce.
I was about to say we don't all have the great head of hair that you have right now, which is covered up. But I said, let me go grab my helmet because it's been a minute since I've seen you, and this is my helmet. It's all banged up. It's broken.
Oh, Patrick, what happened?
So this I kept this, but this happened probably 7 months ago. I was at a game. I had a breakaway. I did not score. I came off, and as is customary, I yelled a few words.
Expletives.
And then I took my helmet off, and I spiked it like I was Gronk. And finally, the helmet had enough, and it broke. And the problem, Bob, was that the second period had just started. So I had to play the whole second period with my helmet completely busted up like that. And then when the second period ended, I went and found some guy that lent me his helmet for a period that was playing in the next game. But yeah,
So did you get yourself a new helmet, Pat, or do Donna and I have to buy you one for Christmas?
that's the funny part is I had a contact at CCM for a couple of years, and any equipment I needed, like he would just give me equipment. And before he moved up to Boston, because he took over that territory, he was like, "What do you need?" And I was like, "I probably could use a new helmet because I had a tendency to miss a lot of breakaways, Bob, and spike my helmet." So I figured, all right, it's coming, and that helmet sat in my trunk for 5 years, and so I had a helmet. I was good, but yeah, I'm
When
all
you
right.
got the new car, you didn't transfer it to the new car, or
I did.
what
No,
happened?
I did. No, I
Okay.
transferred it, but it didn't. It was never in my hockey bag.
Okay. All
It
right.
was only in the trunk.
All right.
So
Because I worry about your head protection, Pat.
I don't blame you. I think a lot of people do. I mean, if you see the mediocre content I put out, it's like he could be better, and that's
There's
why
been
I have.
damage done. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, plenty. I mean, I was
Yeah.
concussed at one point, so it happens. When you're a big body like me standing in front of the net, you're gonna get hit.
Well, I love to see big men trying to play small men games, small men trying to play big men games. I'm not a real fan of, Pat. So we might have to
All
change
right.
that up with you.
Look, a lot of people know you as Bobby Basketball.
Is that right?
That was it. There's just silence. Not only that, but on my end, the camera froze for a second, so it was just your face frozen. But
It
yeah,
was just dead time.
we used to call you Bobby Basketball because you covered the Sixers, but you recently took over the Phillies beat for NBC Sports Philadelphia, which
Bobby
congrats on
Baseball.
that. So now you're Bobby Baseball, exactly.
That's right.
And as soon as you joined the beat, the team started performing pretty poorly, and it ended in the NLDS. Now, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not blaming people, but it seems like I have to blame somebody, and I'm not going to blame Bryce Harper like Dave Dombrowski. I will put the blame on you. But look, you were
No
covering the
problem.
team. You were covering the team every day. You were traveling with them. In your opinion, what the hell happened?
I think they played the best team in baseball, honestly, Pat. I really do. Like, I think the Dodgers are that good. And if you can, like, kind of take away the emotion away from it, if you're a Phillies fan, it was a really good series. Like, I mean, those were good games
Yeah.
and tough games. And, it starts with, I think, not the downfall of the Phillies, but the momentum switch that the Dodgers grabbed was when Teoscar Hernandez hit that home run. And it was just like, because you thought you had that game won. And but the more and more they went, Pat, their lineup is really good. And then they were getting Will Smith back, and they were getting Muncy back, and then that's a really formidable lineup. And then you're like, oh wow, and they're not even going to pitch Shohei Ohtani until Game 5 if necessary. You know what I mean? Like again, I mean for the second time, like they're that good offensively, pitching, defensively. They're a really good baseball team, and I think the Phillies are a really good baseball team too. I just think two of the best, and I think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball right now, faced each other in that first series, and if you're going to count wild card second series, and that's what happened. I don't think it was much fault of the Phillies as much it was as much good of the Dodgers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I think that goes forgotten. I think a lot of times in baseball, especially, is like you can just run into the literally best team in the sport, and you can do everything you can, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way, even though you are a really good team, which the Phillies obviously were. Dombrowski comes out, as I kind of mentioned there, and puts a little blame on. I don't want to say he put blame on Bryce Harper, but he just questioned whether Bryce Harper would ever be a lead or not. What did you make of those comments?
Well, it's funny. I'm sitting there, and Dombrowski, if he's anything to a fault, I think, and I don't think it's a fault, but he's honest and he thinks things out and what he's saying and what he's seen through the years, Pat. And I thought it was his honest assessment of, well, Bryce had a 280, 27 home run, 80 plus RBIs, although missed some games and stuff like that. Not an elite year, not a Bryce Harper year. Will he have that in him? It's fair to say I don't know when the guy's 32, 3, 4 years old. Um, Sometimes is there a fault in being too honest? Sure, and we've seen it in sports. I was a little surprised when he said it, like my eyebrows kind of went up when I'm sitting at the press conference. But you know me, Pat, as well as anybody in this business. I dissect what he's saying as he's saying it, and I'm thinking to myself, and this was just my thoughts. Wow, he's being really honest here. He really honestly, and I don't think it was a damning thing about Bryce Harper. Maybe Harper does have 3-4 more great years in him. None of us knows that. I don't know it. You don't know it. Dombrowski doesn't know it. I don't know if Bryce Harper knows it with his body breaking down and the wrist problem he had this year and all. So I think he was being honest. If there was a fault in what he said, or to me, it was maybe too honest and maybe something a player doesn't want to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I'll run by you my thoughts real quick. I thought of it as like when you look at what went wrong with the Phillies in that series, it was the top of the order. It was Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber. They just didn't hit, except for that one game. You're not going to blame Kyle Schwarber because he's a free agent. You want to bring him back. You can't blame Trey Turner because he just led the league in batting. So that leaves one guy that you can kind of throw under the bus a little bit. And if there's one guy I think on the team that you can kind of do that with, it would be Bryce Harper because he understands the business so well. I think he is pretty self-aware. The guy, and I was thinking about this, like, this sounds ridiculous, but I was thinking about this for fantasy purposes because I take Bryce Harper in my one league, and I'm like, I don't know if I can take him anymore because he's rarely healthy for a full season.
Right.
And it's just the way that he plays the game. But yeah, I was a little surprised about the comments, but I was more surprised with the fact that Rob Thompson is coming back. Now, what did you think about that decision, and what did you think about how he managed in the playoffs?
I didn't disagree with the decision. I kind of got a feel now. Well, I was with the team from July 1st on, so it's not I'm not going to pretend that I was there for so long. But the overwhelming feeling that I got was that these guys really like him and trust him and believe in what he's talking about, and the communication between the two, meaning players and the manager, I thought was really good. And in getting to know Rob Thompson and reading up on him a little bit more and talking to people around the league about him, that's the key to Rob Thompson, that he's prepared, that he knows what's coming, not only next batter, but next inning, next week, next month, next year. He's very on top of things that way. As much as he wants to keep things, pitch to pitch, day to day, and that's what he preaches to his players, he sees the whole outlook. You look at a guy, Pat, and it's kind of like you and I have talked about this through the years. It's instant gratification with fans, with players, with people in life right now, and all of that. I don't know if I told you, and you're a huge baseball guy, that you're going to bring in a manager and he's going to do what Thompson has done over a 4-year span, but hasn't got you the championship. Does a new manager guarantee you a championship? I don't think so. Does a new manager change the culture of this clubhouse? Probably, and probably not in a good way. It'd probably have to go, all right, let's see who he is, and then you have to build it back up. So I didn't mind them bringing him back at all. As far as managing the series, he put it out there. He shouldn't have done David Robertson with an up and down, which he hadn't done all year. So he thought that was a mistake. I said right at the time, he was playing to pitch Strom against Ohtani, right, for the next inning, and kind of overlooked 3 batters getting to Ohtani. And then he was just like, oh, yeah, Robertson, go back out there, even though he pitched a batter, went down, and came back up, which he hadn't done all year. So I thought that was a little bit of a mistake. The one thing that bothered me, and I've said this to everybody, and I'll say it to him when I talk to him again, is I'm of the ilk, if you win 95, 96 games during the regular season, you're doing something really well. Why are you changing so much from that when it comes to pitching in the playoffs? Your thing all year is, hey, if I can get my starter to go 6 innings, 7 innings, then I got a bullpen that I really trust. Well, why is it when a little bit of trouble, 1, 2 runs, why is it like, oh, now we got to go bullpen in the 4th or the 5th? That goes back to the offensive thing, Pat, to me, and you're not getting the offense, therefore you have to overcoach the pitching, and I think that's the root of a lot of the evils with the Phillies over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I watched the final game with a guy that we know, Jamie Lynch.
I heard of him.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. But we were discussing the series, and you're right. Like my big problem, and one of the reasons why I thought Thompson should go, is because I thought he fumbled the entire series, and a large part of it was the fact that he was doing the opposite. It was like, Orion Kerkering is absolutely terrible inheriting runners. Let's put Orion Kerkering inheriting runners. Let's put David Robertson, even though, like, take away the up-down thing, Robertson just didn't have his stuff, and you still brought him back out. Like, it was pretty clear he just did not have it even though he got out of that initial inning, and then you bring him back out. Matt Strahm wasn't very good with inherited runners all season long. You bring Matt Strahm in that situation. Tanner Banks is normally your guy. I thought the roster construction was horrible for the roster, even though that's not all him. It's also Dave Dombrowski has a say in that. But like, I didn't, the one call I didn't have a problem with was actually the bunt call for Bryson Stott bunting. Unfortunately, they had Castellanos on second base, and he's slow. But that goes back to the roster construction. You didn't have a speed guy on your team that you could hit, and so I just thought
the Bader injury really hurt them there because they couldn't go with a pinch runner and all of that, right? Here's the one thing I didn't have a problem with the bunt at the time either, but first pitch he squares, takes it for a ball, right? It was a high pitch, I believe. They had the wheel thing going on that pitch. You saw it right there. You saw it happening right in front of you, and this hasn't gotten mentioned all that much. I mentioned it on another place before. So if you saw it there, and then Rob Thompson's explanation was, well, usually when we see the wheel, we'll have the guy pull the bat back, and he'll slap at it because the whole left side of the infield is open. And, his reasoning was good, but he was like, they caught us off guard. Well, why? They just did the same thing the play before. They ran the exact same wheel when Stott pulled the bat back the play before. Get him out of the box, call something else, whatever. I thought that was a little miss. But again, the Dodgers had to run it to perfection, and they did.
Yeah. I mean, going into the series, I thought, like, okay, these are the two probable best teams in the National League. Unfortunately, they're facing each other in a best of 5. I didn't think Dave Roberts was particularly great either, but I just thought that Rob Thompson didn't help the situation.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, season's over. How would you fix it? If Dave Dombrowski called you up, which I know he does often because you're that guy.
Actually, he's coming over for breakfast this morning, so I got cakes on the griddle.
Thanks for the invite.
Fixing it, Pat. I said this last year. I believe I said this to you maybe a couple years ago. And this is before your time. I know I told you this story, that when I was a kid, there was a team, the Phillies, in the late 70s that were winning a boatload of games but couldn't get over the hump. It was so similar. The Dodgers, the Reds were the two teams they just could not get past. Well, then they bring in a guy to the team that not only kind of kicked some butt in the locker room, but also was a guy that was a pest that got on base all the time. And yeah, he was a 38-year-old Pete Rose, but he was the kind of guy that you knew was going to get on base a lot. And he did. He hit like 320, I want to say, when he came in. He walked. He did what he had to do at the top of that lineup to get the Schmitz and the Luzinskis and those guys to where they should have been earlier, but they couldn't get to. And boom, the Phillies win the World Series. I think they need that kind of a hitter at the top of the lineup, Pat. I think they, Trey Turner, Schwarber, and Harper, when they're good, it's great. But too many times in the playoffs, we've seen it. They're not just getting on base. They're not like those kind of get on base guys, even though Turner won the batting title. I would love to see like an Arraez or something, somebody like that. I think you and I talked about this in the top of that order, a guy that is just going to get on base all the time, a pest. And then you put like a Schwarber and a Harper around him and a Turner. I would like to see someone that could hit near the top. I would like to see Schwarber go to number 4, put him at a 9, even though he had his best year. I'm just saying you got to change something up, and maybe a Harper or 2. And if Thompson's going to do this lefty righty thing, maybe you're going a new leadoff hitter, Turner 2, Harper 3, whatever. Something has to change there, though, because we've seen it too much in the playoffs, Pat. That's those 3 guys at the top of the order. They're not that. It's a feel thing with me. They're not that get on base, here comes the inning type of thing. You're looking for power, flight, whatever. And that doesn't come all that often in playoff baseball the way it does during the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, because we talked about it off the air, on the air, that my biggest gripe with the Phillies for years was like Kyle Schwarber hitting leadoff. And that like his production was going to go down if you dare take him out of leadoff spot. To your point, he hit second, and he's an MVP caliber player.
Right.
I highly doubt he wouldn't have been an MVP caliber player if he was hitting fourth. I would love that move. I don't think they're going to make it. I'm going to give you two players that I want to know your thoughts if they should bring back or move on from. The first is Alec Boehm.
I said, yeah, Alec Boehm, I've always described it this. I'm okay with him. Like, people are like, oh, I don't know. He fields very well. He's gotten a lot better fielding. Seems to be like a 280 hitter. But is that enough? I mean, I think it directly correlates to your outfield. Like, if you're going to have no pop in the outfield, can you afford to have no pop really at third base? You know what I mean? Like, I know what Schwarber gives you in the home runs and all that. And, you know, when I brought up to Rob Thompson privately, like, do you feel like you need more pop or whatever? He's like, we got like 10 guys that have 10 or more home runs.
You know what that reminds me of, Bobby? It reminds me of like the years of the Flyers saying like, oh, we have a bunch of guys with like 15 or more goals. It's like, yeah, but you're dead last.
Yeah, and you don't have a guy that you can rely on to do it all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, Bohm's kind of that guy. Yeah, if you can get something great, if you don't, okay, you can live with them. In my opinion, I'm kind of like 50-50 on him. If he comes back, okay. Look, when he came back from the shoulder, where'd that happen? San Diego, right? He got hit by Yu Darvish. Once he came back from that, man, he was hitting the ball so well because he was going to right center and right field. He was waiting on the ball. He was keeping his hands back, coming through really nicely, and he has some pop off the bat to the gap. He looked really good, and if he can do that consistently and go from like 280 to 290, 295, and you know, he drove in 97 runs a couple years ago, Pat. It was like the quietest 97 RBI season I think me and you ever watched in our lifetime, and my lifetime is a little bit longer than yours. But I kind of like, I'd have to see what they get for him to like it. If they don't do it, I could live with it.
All right, the other guy was Harrison Bader.
Yeah, I know everybody. Oh, you got to bring Bader back. Look what he did. Look what he did. The most popular saying among the Phillies organization is looking at the back of a baseball card. What Harrison Bader did here for the 40 games or whatever he was here is not the back of his baseball card.
It's an anomaly.
Exactly. He's a great fielder. And from our vantage point in various ballparks around the country, you know, in the press box, it's really cool to watch outfielders get jumps on balls when they're hit. And I don't know that I saw a better outfielder this year than Harrison Bader get a jump on a batted ball. He is a phenomenal outfielder. He's a 250, 260 hitter. He's not going to pop all that much. What might override it for the Phillies is, God, they loved his attitude because he comes in, Pat, he wears boots. He's got the boot cut jeans on, probably wears the same ones every day. I assume he rides in on his motorcycle. I don't know. He looks like a 1980s linebacker, you know, with the cutoff shirts all the time, the bandana and all. Like, he's a character, and he's like a kick in the ass, maybe like Pete Rose, that maybe this clubhouse needed a little bit. And Rob Thompson loved it. Does that carry it over to what he is as an outfielder? Maybe that's why they bring him back. But again, you probably get, maybe if he's an everyday player, 15 to 20 home runs from your center fielder. Great fielder. I'm okay with that if on the sides of him you have guys that have a little bit more pop than a Brandon Marsh and a Nick Castellanos. I lost you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, my mic.
There you go. I hear you now.
My mic went out. I don't know why. My comparison for Bader bringing him back was Mike Scott for the Sixers. Like, everybody was all Mike Scotted up.
Right.
Then they brought him back, and then it was like, oh shit, this guy isn't who we thought he was. This guy is a role player at best. And to your point, yeah, I mean, if you bring him back, he's probably 15 home runs, and then you got Marsh, who's probably topping out at 20, and they're moving on from Castellanos. So who do you bring in? Justin Crawford is clearly ready, but he's maybe a 2 to 3 home run a year guy at this point.
Right.
So you have a combined less than 40 home runs from your outfield. You expect, I mean, and that's really, you have good defensive outfield, but where are you getting everything else from? All right, and then the final question for the Phillies until we move on to the Sixers is
I want to keep talking to you, Pat. I like talking to you.
Until we move on from the Sixers, we're getting into basketball, my guy. What do you expect in the offseason, the moves to be made in terms of the three big free agents being Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, and Ranger Suarez?
Well, yeah, I think they want to bring Schwarber back, and I think they're honest about it. And Schwarber, I'll tell you what, Pat, it was, I don't know if you saw it, but in the locker room following the loss to the Dodgers, just a normal question, like, how do you feel? Do you start reflecting now because you're a free agency? And like he's answering, and his lip was quivering, like he was fighting back tears. That's how much he really loves being with this Phillies team. And obviously we've talked to him for the last few months about this, like what's your feelings on it and on. And he said, look, I'd love to come back. And I think they want me back. In my mind, I keep saying, well, then just work it out. Like if Cincinnati's going to give you, 4 years and $150 million, and the Phillies are giving you 4 years and $130 million, and you love it here so much, why wouldn't you just take it? I don't know what's going to happen there, but I think the Phillies will pay to bring him back. I think Real Muto, they don't have any other catchers in the system. And I think you were upset when you didn't like that they gave the Twins,
Eduardo Said.
Yeah, the catching prospect.
Yeah, and even he was probably 3 to 4 years away.
Right.
But and I'll be transparent about this. Like there hasn't been a Phillies prospect that I haven't loved. I fall in love with all of them. They're my children.
Oh my God, I was thinking of you last game. Somebody was sitting in front of me with a Scott Kingery jersey.
Dude, I brought that up recently. Somebody asked me about jerseys, and I said I've only sold one, and it was Scott Kingery for $50. And somebody paid $50 for that.
And that was right off your back, wasn't it? Didn't you take?
No, it wasn't off my back. No, the guy was like the biggest Scott Kingery fan. But it was when I walked in the locker room and I was wearing a Moniak jersey, and somebody brought up Kingery. They were like, "Oh, I bet you don't have a Kingery." And I was like, "Well, I did." But yeah, I mean, I fall in love with all of them.
You do. Well, but your knowledge of them all is great. And it's funny because how everything ties in, all these subjects that you have brought up, Pat, they all tie in together when we talk about them, right? Like we quickly brought up Crawford. Well, he's probably going to be here next year, and he's probably going to be an everyday player. And Dombrowski said he's either a left fielder or center fielder. I don't think they're going to keep him down in the minors anymore. But as you said, he's a singles hitter. And that's okay. A guy that gets on base. Maybe that's the guy that I kind of talked about at the beginning that you put in up at the top of the order. That is a 300 average, maybe like a 450, on base percentage, something crazy. Maybe he's that guy, but I don't think they're going to keep him in the minors anymore. So that's your other guy that you're bringing back there. Real Muto, I think you have to bring back. They just don't have any other catchers.
Yeah,
and he's in great shape. It's amazing. Like I watch the little things, Pat, as you know. As far as a guy getting up and down at catching and how is he moving slower or all. Well, Real Muto is so smart. If you ever notice, when they're warming up to pitch the next inning, he rarely goes out except for the last pitch of the warm-up. He'll catch that last pitch, throw to second, boom, inning begins. He doesn't want to put wear and tear on his legs, just warming up pitchers. So Marchand will come out and do that. He lifts after every game. I mean, we get done a game, we're waiting to go in the locker room. Boom, he goes to the weight room, and there he is lifting for 15, 20 minutes. He's in phenomenal shape. I don't look at him as a 34, 35-year-old. I think he probably has a couple more years left, and you can do different things. Suarez, if I had to rank them, I thought he was number 3. I thought, like, if they're going to put out all this money, I think he's the guy where you say, well, you got a Painter. You probably have Wheeler, maybe hopefully for another year. Nola's signed, Suarez and Sanchez really did a lot of good things. Or not Suarez, I'm sorry. Luzardo. I think he's the guy that it might be, well, thanks for everything, but we just can't afford you.
Now, look, I said that was the last question, but it's not. Because you brought up the wear and tear on Real Muto. Have you ever asked Rob Thompson then why exactly he never plays Real Muto at first base, at DH? Like, and we've talked about this off air, but it's the one big gripe I have with Rob Thompson that I thought that Joe Girardi actually did better than Rob Thompson was like Joe Girardi would play him at first base. He would play him at DH. He would try to get him rest so that come September and October, he wasn't worn down by the wear and tear of playing that many games behind the dish. Under Rob Thompson, he's by far the league leader in innings behind the plate. And I understand he's so important to that pitching staff and everybody's comfortable with him. But the trade-off there, Rafael Marchand getting 150 at-bats a season, to your point, why don't they ever move him around and use that versatility? You have a first baseman who can play right field. You have a DH who can play left field, albeit not well. You have a catcher who can play DH and first base. Like, they don't use the versatility at all.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And yeah, we did ask Rob Thompson that an awful lot, and he's like, he wants to play and he wants to catch. And without saying it, I think Rob Thompson probably felt what you just said. And I don't want to play shorter in left field because that's just an adventure. Putting Bryce Harper out in right field, something he hasn't done in a long time. I think a lot of it, there was a lot of human nature from what I gathered in Rob Thompson in managing this year, Pat. Like, there was a game we were out in California and he threw Otto Kemp out there, and it was like, wait, what? And I felt there was Otto Kemp had like 150 people in the stands because he played college ball right near San Diego. And I really think, and I don't blame him for this, it was human nature. Rob's like, hey, you got all these people here. Yeah, you're playing tonight. With Bryce Harper, I don't think he wants to move him to right field because he doesn't want to try to screw anything up. The Castellanos thing, although late in the year, he went to rotating him or whatever. Earlier in the year, he's an everyday guy. I'm just going to keep putting him out there. So I think sometimes with Thompson, the human element overshadows maybe the baseball thing, if it's not that big or whatever. But with Real Muto, and what I'm getting at is that Real Muto told him he wanted to play every day. And he said, I'm fine catching, and I'm keeping myself in shape to catch, and I can do it. And Thompson trusts him. And so that's the human element that I'm talking about. He trusts Real Muto enough for him to say, I feel great, let me play. And he does. He plays him.
All right, enough of baseball because nobody cares about baseball. We're moving on. We're moving on to a sport
I care.
Nobody cares. We just talked for 27 minutes about it, but nobody cares. Bobby basketball. Sixers 2-0, Bobby.
Wait, hold on. Now Bobby basketball.
All right. All right, Bobby basketball. He is here. He is back.
I got my
hello,
basketball shirt on. There we go.
Hello, Camden Catholic. Hello, fellow kids.
Represent.
I don't know if you still watch the sport or not. I know you're one of these guys that doesn't really watch sports when you're not covering.
No,
you know what's funny?
It's soap operas and game shows.
No. I saw Matt Cord like an hour ago, and he said,
"Wait, who did you see?"
Matt Cord.
Oh, okay. I know him.
And he was like, yeah, like Bob's doing the Phillies thing, right? And I was like, yeah. I was going to talk to him about, basketball because, Bob, I was like, he'll watch Tiddlywinks on ESPN de Ocho if it's a sport.
Actually, that starts at 10:30, so let's hurry this.
Yeah, let's hurry. All right. The Sixers are 2-0. Early thoughts on the team, Bob?
It's interesting. It's very interesting, Pat, because the perspective I look at it is every year, or let's just take away injury for now because we know that's the top subject. But every year for the last 8 years, it's how you building around Embiid. What do you have? Does this guy fit with him? Does that guy fit? Can he play with this guy? Can he play with that guy? Now it's totally changed. Can Embiid play with these guys? Because I think your core right now is probably this fast, young, talented guard group that they have, and it's more of a how does Joel Embiid fit with these guys? And I think Embiid kind of admitted it at the press conference the other night when they said, sometimes this team plays a little bit better when you're not on the floor. And he was like, thank God it's only been 12 years. I thought that was kind of, I don't want to say mature, but I thought it was an interesting outlook, the way he said that. So that's what I think is neat. I think what this team has lacked is what they've majored in is plotting. I think there's been a lot of plotting over the last few years. And it's like, of course you have to get Embiid the ball. And of course he has to touch it every time down. Okay, so he's late coming down the court. So you got to get it to him at the high key and hope that somebody gets open and run high pick and rolls. Well, now it's like more movement. And there's a lot of stuff going on. And thank God, my son and I were talking about this the other night. For the first time, you're seeing like weak side movement from the 76ers and maybe even weak side picks. So guys can come open, get open coming to the basketball. And with an Edgecombe and with a Grimes and Maxey, look at his assists, Pat. That's what I like a lot. Like he's become more of a playmaker than, just being a scorer. And I think that's the whole Nick Nurse thing. I think it's interesting. I think they have pieces that may fit together pretty well. And then once Embiid figures this out and they figure him out, it might be a little bit fun this year.
Yeah, I was high on him coming in. I feel like one of the few people that was pretty optimistic about this team, and I kind of looked at last year as like everything that could go wrong did go
Yeah.
wrong, and I'd said before, I think in a couple of years we could look back on last year's season as like one step back to go like 5 steps forward, because Nick Nurse was forced to play guys like Justin Edwards, who he normally wouldn't play, but you were able to see what you could get out of him, and he ends up, getting a contract. And he was forced to play Quentin Grimes, even though he was like a midseason trade, but normally Quentin Grimes wouldn't have gotten that kind of playing time. And then, of course, you end up getting VJ Edgecombe, which you normally wouldn't have gotten. Nobody was banking on that, having that pick. And as the season went on, it's like that pick became more realistic, and you end up getting a player. So I looked at it like, look, this team could be pretty good. I was cautiously optimistic, but I want to run this by you. My big takeaway from game one was, if I were to tell you they're going to go into Boston, and even though they don't have Jason Tatum, they're going to go into Boston and Joel Embiid is going to have 4 total points. I in previous years, they're not winning that game.
No.
Oh, and by the way, late in the game, they're trailing by 13. Previous years, they're not winning that game. And it was like, the amount of times Joel Embiid's only going to have 4 points in a game is pretty small.
Yeah.
So you're going to get him going, and he got going the other night. He had 20 points in 20 minutes. That was my big takeaway. It was like, they finally have a team that can win, even though he's not going right that night.
Yeah, and I'll break it down even further. Like, there was 9 seconds to go. The Sixers missed foul shots at the end, right? Celtics are down 1. They have the ball 9 seconds to go. I'm on the phone with my son, Kyle, who's a basketball nut, and I said, there's no way I would bet almost my life that they lose this game, because it's in Boston. They missed foul shots at the end, and they wound up winning it somehow. So maybe this is a group, Pat, that doesn't know. Sometimes it's better what you don't know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story, too. The day after the NBA draft, I was out, and I got a call from a friend of mine in the NBA offices, and just checking in, and he says, listen, I got to tell you, we think up here that the Sixers got a real steal in Edgecombe. Like, he goes, so much so he might be the best player in this draft. And I said, really? Now we're talking a draft with Cooper Flag. He goes, this kid is no nonsense, plays defense. He's exactly what this Sixers team needs, and very, very high on him. And like I said, this was the day after the draft. The kid just has an it factor about him. Look, he's going to run into some freshman stuff and rookie mistakes and games where it's like, where was he? That's going to happen. But look at his composure. Look for the defense. That's what I love about him. And I heard him say this one time: if my offense isn't going well, I know I can play well on defense, and I'll do that. That's a big thing to me, and something that the Sixers really need. So I agree with you. I think this could be a very interesting season for them.
Yeah, when I interviewed our old buddy Devon Givens before the draft about essentially Ace Bailey and VJ Edgecombe, because those were the 2 guys they were down. And at the time, I was leaning towards Ace Bailey, having not really an educated opinion on the matter, because it wasn't like I was dialed.
You didn't watch a lot of Rutgers basketball?
Did not. You know me, man. I'm Temple through and through. I watch Temple, and that's about it. But I was leaning towards, Ace Bailey if they asked my opinion, which of course they didn't. And the more Devon talked about Edgecombe and about what you're talking about with his defense and stuff, I was like, that the kid you're describing fits better with this Sixers team, where you're not relying on him, where if he scores, great, that's a bonus. But you kind of do need a more of a defensive stopper in a lot of ways, because you already have Embiid, you already have Maxey, Paul George coming back, you've got Jared McCain. Like, you don't necessarily, you're not relying on a rookie to come in and kind of save the franchise. You're looking more for a role player, and it didn't really feel like Ace Bailey was that guy. VJ Edgecombe coming in, you end up seeing the impact in game 1, and then in game 2, he played pretty well. But to your point, like, if he can just add something else when the shot isn't falling, it's going to be big for this team. And yeah, I think it could be a surprising year for the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, it's late in the game the other night. Tight game at home against who they have?
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
And you need a big basket. And what does he do? He comes off of a screen, and he just holds the ball for a second. And then, like I said, very composed, little bounce pass over to Grimes, who hits a 3-pointer. Like, a rookie, you don't see that calmness late in his second NBA game. That's what stuck out to me, as much as the pass, as much as the composure. Like, that, to me, was like a veteran play. And it seems small that he just did what he did, but he threw the pass right as the double team was kind of trying to break apart to get to the shooter, threw the pass the right way to the right place, and they wind up winning the game on it. So yeah, he's a lot of fun.
All right, what'd you think of the Bruce Springsteen movie, Bobby?
I didn't see it, Pat. I'm sorry. I saw Titanic in the movie theater in 1998.
So I took MBG to the Springsteen movie, and I said, oh, Bob's supposed to see it this weekend. And she was like, what? He's supposed to see? And I went, yeah, the legendary Titanic story, but like he's going to break it for Bruce.
Well, for those don't know, we have to fill them in. I have not been in the movie theaters since 1998.
It was
really
97.
like going. Was it? But it was
Titanic came out. Titanic came out in 97.
It was. Because I am a very impatient person. People will be like, well, you watch 2.5 hours of basketball, hockey, baseball, football every day. Yeah, for some reason, I know I'm going to be entertained no matter what in those games. I'm not sure I'm going to be entertained in a movie. So that's why it's kind of a whatever. I don't love it. So anyway, I went to my wife on Friday morning and I said, how about if we go see Springsteen tonight at 6:30 because we're both Springsteen fans. And she gave me a look like, what? And I said, yeah, let's do it. And she's like, and she had a great point. And like I said, we're huge Springsteen fans. She goes, she said two things. One, if we go and you're disappointed, it's going to ruin my night because I get this look on my face after 5 minutes like I'm stuck. So she's like, I don't want to see that. And then she had a great point. She said, you know what? I don't want to be disappointed in a movie for someone that's given us joy throughout our lifetime, going to concerts and stuff like that. She said, so let's wait until it comes out and we can watch it at home. So that's what we're going to do, Pat. I know you were thoroughly not disappointed. You just didn't like it.
I thought it sucked.
Yeah. I've read a lot of reviews on it. I think it probably leans toward people that like Springsteen are going to find a way to like the movie. People that, I'm not saying you don't like him, whatever. I think people that maybe don't know the whole story of New Jersey Bruce Springsteen probably will be like, this isn't a good movie. And I understand both sides.
Yeah, for me, it was more of like, this is a Hollywood problem. They continue to make biopics on very talented people with not extraordinary stories, where you just sit back and go, what was the point of dedicate? And they did that with Bob Dylan. Like Bob Dylan, they made a folk festival out to be like it was, Ozfest, where they're throwing bottles and stuff. And it's like, this isn't interesting. He's in like his career, I guess, like he's talented.
Well, that's what's funny to me, Pat. Like, so the premise of the story in Nebraska, it's like a real downtime in his time in his life. And he's really struggling with himself, and he's going to write this album come hell or high water, even though he knows it's not the album that should be following what he's already done and put him up this ladder. They went to tell the story of the low time of Bruce Springsteen. And if you think of any rock star, I don't care if it's Springsteen or whoever else, you think like, oh my God, what a life that they've had. It's a rock star. And they did a movie on the lowest point of his life. To me, you have to be a fan of Bruce Springsteen to appreciate that, as opposed to somebody going to a movie and going, wait, this guy's battling depression. He's writing an album on a like a synthesizer by himself on the corner of a bed. What is this about? So like I said, I do understand both sides. Yeah.
Because I was talking to Matt Cord about it, and he's like, I loved it, but that's my favorite Bruce album.
Names around like
oh, I'm dropping business. like we've never heard someone drop names before like I'm doing it right now. But I'm rubbing elbows with Matty Cord at the movies. What a funny story. The girl for the marketing company, I was walking in and somebody was like, yeah, we have Pierre Roberts coming in.
Oh, no way.
Pierre Robert. Yeah, but there's another name drop for you. But he said, look, that's my favorite album. And I said, if they made a movie about my favorite album, it'd be hard for me not to like it.
Exactly.
And to that point, I saw the Rock movie, The Smashing Machine, which is about an MMA fighter. And it's very similar to my complaints with the Springsteen movie, where like it's not an interesting story. I liked it because I like the sport and I find the sport interesting, but there's about a billion other different stories of MMA that you could have told that would have been way more interesting than the Smashing Machine story. And they also didn't do a good job of explaining what you're talking about. Like for me, at least, the depression stuff didn't really hit until late in the movie.
Oh, is that right?
Where they threw it. They're like, he's depressed. And up until that point, I was like, oh yeah, there were signs, but I wasn't putting it together. So I just
And
didn't think
that's got to be hard. You know movies so much better than I do, but that's got to be hard. I'm thinking as a writer, there's a lot of assumption there. Oh, we don't have to explain this. People know who Springsteen is or what he's about, what he's going through, and that's part of what I'm saying. Like, yeah, me as a fan and who's read, his 800-page Born to Run book, whatever it was. Like, I kind of understand the human being or know about him a little bit more than somebody going into a movie to watch it. The assumption that writers have, it can't be there, even though, you're probably thinking in your head, do I really have to explain that Bruce Springsteen came from New Jersey and, whatever. So, like I said before, I totally understand everybody's review of it.
Yeah, I'm interested
Except yours. I didn't understand it because you use big words, and I don't like big words, Pat.
Well, I'm a loquacious human being.
You are wordsmith, I would say.
I don't look. I'm not a troglodyte out here just throwing uhs and ums. All right, I'm a sophisticated human. But no, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. And that was my big thing. Was like, look, I'm not a Springsteen guy. I mean, I like a couple of his songs, but I'm going into it like that. I was interested to hear people that actually do like his stuff and what they thought. And you're the biggest Springsteen fan I know, but that's more of like because you're a Philadelphia media member and that's your thing. Like you can't be a Philadelphia.
It's a prerequisite, yes.
Yeah, it's like you,
when
John
you're filling
Clark.
out your resume, somehow you have to work in Springsteen when you're trying to be a sports writer in Philadelphia.
You have to, yeah. All right, Bobby. I don't have much else to talk to you
come
about.
On.
I mean, what else do you have going on? Like, what's your now
nothing.
that the Phillies?
That's why I'm sitting talking here with you for so long. I got nothing. We'll see what happens. We'll see what's around the corner.
The season's over, so like, what do you spend your days doing?
I go on podcasts.
I just show up.
I think I'm gonna go on the bread truck with Rock tomorrow night.
You act like it's a pickup game at the Y. I just show up and say, "Do you guys need a fourth?"
You
guys need one more for the run.
So, hopefully back on. We'll see. I did the work for NBC Sports Philadelphia covering the Phillies. We're in talks to do some more things. So fingers crossed that everything works out over there. And so I look forward to being back and sharing my sports insights with people like you, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, I miss seeing you every day.
I know. I miss your Musk.
I don't believe that at all.
I miss running my fingers through your helmet head.
You never did that. You would stick your finger in my ear when we took pictures.
That a few times, yes.
More than a few times, yeah.
Yes,
but and even after that, you're still like one of my favorite coworkers I ever had. Even though
I put my finger in your ear, I was still one of your. I thought I was your favorite.
No, you're one of my favorite.
One of them? All right.
Yeah. I mean, there's
it a long list or a short list?
It's very long. It's Dylan McKinnon is up there. He's ahead of you. Joe Stazak's ahead of you. Kincaid obviously is ahead of you.
It's number one on everybody's list. We're not gonna. Yeah.
Andrew, Jamie, Devon, Coach Missinelli, Harry Mays,
interns that came on towards the end.
Yep, all of them, and then it's
the bosses, of course.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, I was a huge Scott fan. You know that.
I've
all.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I got nothing else.
I'm pretty far down on the list, huh?
You're behind Scott.
Where are you recording from? That's a pretty good studio you got going there.
It's my place, but this is the stuff that I bought for like the sound. So this is stupid, but like when I record, I do it into this. But if I record a video, I don't have anywhere else to do it, so I have to flip the camera. So I'm recording out into. So
I got you. Okay.
But people aren't here for the audio; they're here for a couple of good-looking people. Yeah. That's why we did radio.
Do you ever tease them with your dance moves?
I don't, but you know what? So
it's got to be coming soon, Pat.
I do have a deal on my OnlyFans this month, but whatever. $3.99. You can check them out. But Shan sent a video of our youngest Riley dancing at like a trunk or treat to me and my mom, and my Shan was like, he must have gotten the moves from like the Egan side because my side can't dance. And my mom was like, well, I just like cut in. I went, your side can't dance. I can dance. Like my mom's
not
side
an Egan
can't
thing.
dance.
It's a Pat Egan thing.
It's a me thing. All right.
Okay.
Like the hips don't lie on over here. But yeah, you've seen it. You've seen it in person.
Oh, I still have it on my phone, buddy. I'm not going to lie. Maybe once a week I take a look at it just to, a little tear wells up in my right eye.
Sometimes you have to show the family, Jenna, Tommy, Bobby.
I don't know if they could take it. It's
a lot. It's a lot.
It
yeah,
is
I mean,
lot.
Jenna's turning 28 now, and
3. Don't do that because when you do that, it makes me look older.
That's a great point.
Although I can't look much older. Yeah, so Pat started this thing by introducing me as his pop-up. There's probably some people out there watching that don't know the story. We were traveling. Where were we?
I think we're traveling to Arizona.
And we
I think
are
it was
in
from
the
the Super
airport
Bowl.
waiting for our plane, and we had some time, so we went to get something to eat, a little lunch, and we go up, and the girl says, "Hey guys, how are you? Can I help you?" And Pat just looks at her and says, "This is my pop-up." And girl, without hesitation, she's like, "Oh, hi, pop-up." I was like, "Oh man." So from then on, I was your pop-up.
That's my second favorite story with you. My first favorite is the meeting Vince Rizzuto's wife, and I mean, because you have an employer now, I don't want to tell the full details, but I basically, me and Bob had the same room. There was an error. Everybody else had their own room, and me and Bob were expected to share a room. And I'm like, no, like
it had 2 beds. So I was like, yes, it's boys' weekend. And
no girls allowed.
None of it.
Meanwhile, I have like Audi and Mercedes coming over. I got a plan. And so I contacted Vince Rizzuto from Philly Sports Trips, who was the guy that put it all together. He's like, hey man, like come down to the lobby.
Didn't know.
I didn't know him. Yeah.
Right.
And he's like, hey, come down to the lobby. And I'd met Vince like once, but that's it. We hadn't had a conversation. It's Vince's anniversary. Like he's about to go out to dinner with his wife for their anniversary. And he's busy trying to get me a room. And I come downstairs and I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry to do this to you. Bob is upstairs violently. And I imply that you were doing something that you probably only do in, the comfort of your own home when you're alone. I'm trying.
That's not my favorite story between me and you.
Yeah, but for me it is because it was a 50%. Like it could go 50%. They were insulted and they were horrified that you were upstairs just going at it, or it was they were crack up laughing. And luckily for me, she burst out laughing. She found it to be the funniest story. She tells it every time I see her. And
great!
And then the next morning we had breakfast together with Vince, and I was like, yeah, you see Bob over there got a workout yesterday. You see his face
sweating. I was still sweating.
Yeah. It happens. All right. We have more stories.
I gotta say I was a little disappointed that you didn't want to bunk up for it. Didn't we have one night though that because I had to wake you up to go to work?
No, I napped.
Or was that somewhere else?
No, we did. Oh my God, yeah. So
that was in Arizona.
The Super Bowl, we shared a room. And I was so when we would travel, not that we did it a lot, I think we did it like 4 times. When
I lost you.
Good.
There we go.
Good. Okay. When we would travel, I was like habitual with like, you will not find where I am. We
still talk about this to this day.
I'm going to be alone. I
did get you one time though.
You did. Yeah. Housekeeping. So yeah, I would get my room and then I wouldn't tell anybody where it was. We go out to the Super Bowl and our bosses just goofed. They messed up and they book us rooms at a place that, like, no lie, was probably a crack den. I mean, we showed up.
There was blood on the floor.
Yeah, you thought the front desk people were. You said you saw them like banging lines of.
They weren't. They weren't doing things you should be doing when you're working.
Yeah, and this is like, not to sound highbrow, but like they handed us key cards with Post-it notes on them.
Yeah.
And then we get into the room and it was
gross.
Oh my God, it was hard. So like we literally we signed on and then we were out in like I think less than an hour, we all were like, we can't stay here. Kincaid books his own room. Me and you ended up bunking up, and we watched LeBron break Kareem's scoring title.
That's right.
And
I think we were holding hands when we did that because we knew it was going to be a special moment.
we were holding hands, but that was it. All right, get your mind out of the gutter, folks.
Just one
we
hand,
held
because I
hands.
needed the other one.
LBJ. Lyndon Baines Johnson? No, the king.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then in Tampa, you went down to the front desk, asked them where my room was, and knocked on the door and found out where I was staying. And
here's
you were
what Pat
proud of
does.
yourself.
So I knock on the room and I'm like, housekeeping, and he opens the door, but he had the latch on. He sees it's me. I'm like, yo, dude, we're gonna go down and eat in like 15 minutes. He's like, I'll be there, and he just closes the door. And I like knock on the door. He doesn't. He's like, go away. So I can't imagine what you do in your hotel rooms, but what you do is your business.
Yeah, it's, again, I have a career outside of radio. That's all you need to know. There's cam girls,
we both do now,
and there's cam. So true. When I walked out of Springsteen and I saw Matt, and Matt was like, "What'd you think?" And I started giving my I hated it and these reasons why. He's like, "Wow, it's so unlike you to be opinionated." And I was like, "I probably should work in sports radio. If you know anyone that has an in, I'd like to do that." But no, instead, I'm making YouTube videos with you that are probably going to get 70 views, maybe
1,000. 70,000.
Shit, I hope, Bobby. I hope.
You got to do. Make sure you promote the hell out of this, Pat.
You don't think I will?
Attaboy.
So wait, I got to get off the pole.
The Springsteen movie.
He loved it, but he said it's his favorite album.
Okay.
So he was telling me how he would just listen to that nonstop when he lived in New York.
Wow.
And he was talking about how he had the Walkman, and it was the new age Walkman where you didn't have to flip the tape.
Ah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that new technology, Maddie. And
it
reminded me of the scene in Almost Famous where they're talking about the fax machine. He's like, it's 18 minutes a page. And I'm like, yeah.
The Walkman was cool because you had to if you had it on and you were walking, Walkman, you had to walk real gingerly because otherwise it would skip if you had too much bounce in your step.
Bob, the first Discman that I had, I was in third grade, or I think I was in third grade, and I get a Discman for Christmas. And I'll never forget walking around with it, and it skipped.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? And I was mortified. I'm like, how am I supposed to use this thing? I'm just supposed to sit here and listen to Big Willie Style by Will Smith? And I had to. I had to listen to Big Willie Style with the Discman just sitting there. And then luckily it upgraded to non-skip. And we progress as a society. And now
in third grade, I just wished I had shoes on my feet. Here you are walking around.
Here we go. We go. And not only did I have a Discman, I had brand new rollerblades too. I have a core memory of sitting on my grandparents' couch with my rollerblades on and Big Willie Style in the Discman, listening to him talk about Miami glowingly, where he was partying in the city with the heat is on. All night he partied to the break of dawn.
Wow. I was just wondering where my next meal was coming from. So,
I wasn't at all. I was off. We looked down on people like you. We made fun of people like you.
No question about it. Yeah.
I would.
If you weren't so short, you would still be doing that to me. That wasn't nice. I didn't mean that. Edit that out.
All right. I'm going to end the recording. Please subscribe.
I hate the fact that I'm having to make this video. AJ Brown is not on the trade block. Despite what the NFL media, what local media would like you to believe, AJ Brown is not on the trade block. It is a ridiculous thing to even consider. Why? Okay, well, first of all, the Eagles are trying to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Why would they trade AJ Brown? Does that make any sense to you? Is AJ Brown not one of the best receivers in the league? Is he a top 5 receiver in the league? How would it benefit them? Trading AJ Brown. Then what? Then you go into the playoffs with a duo of Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson? I think everybody is fine with both those wide receivers, but as those two, just those two, no AJ Brown? Yeah, I don't think that's good. Didn't we live through that? I'm pretty sure we lived through that scenario. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Before. With Donovan McNabb as quarterback. I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to like James Thrash and Todd Pinkston. Now, I don't want to, comparing, okay, got a little ahead of myself there. Comparing Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson to James Thrash and Todd Pinkston, a little bit much. Maybe we go Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin, but still, it wasn't good enough. He is one of the best receivers in the league. You're not trading him if you're trying to win, which the Eagles are. The second thing is, I think fans get worried because they'll see reports like the Patriots called about A.J. Brown. The Patriots should call about A.J. Brown. Every team in the league should call about A.J. Brown. Because as I just stated, he's one of the best receivers in the league. And if you're an outsider and you're seeing a quote-unquote disgruntled employee, yeah, it's in your best interest to sit there and make a phone call and say, hey, are you guys interested in trading this guy? That makes a lot of sense. Tons, actually. But I think what gets lost in the message here is the fact that just because a team is calling the Eagles and even offering something doesn't mean the Eagles are seriously entertaining the proposal. And I think that's gets lost in the shuffle a lot of times with these trade rumors. Yeah, a team can call. What gets not reported is the other team laughing them off the phone. I mean, a day 2 pick, we as Eagles fans were laughing when the Eagles traded a first-round pick for A.J. Brown, saying, oh my God, the Tennessee Titans, you're idiots, you're fools. You're trading A.J. Brown for the mystery box, hoping that the mystery box will end up being A.J. Brown. By the way, it ended up being Treylon Burks, who's already off the team. So no, that doesn't make any sense. And I heard Adam Schefter report from, or an interview from Adam Schefter on SiriusXM basically say the same thing. Like, he was asked the question by the reporter because there's not a ton going on right now. So, of course, you're going to ask about certain situations. And he asked about the A.J. Brown thing of whether or not they're trading him. And Adam kind of laughed. But then he also said, like, look, why wouldn't you wait till the offseason if you really want to trade him that badly? You'd wait till the offseason when everybody thinks they have a fair shot. Instead of a small pool of contenders, everybody thinks, oh, this is our year and we're one player away. But that gets us into the biggest reason why A.J. Brown won't be traded. This year, his dead cap hit was $90 million. You want to know what it is next year? $72 million. He's not getting traded. Unless they're restructuring and all, he's not getting traded. I think we are so concerned. We have PTSD from the Terrell Owens saga of 2005 that we cannot get past it. That we see a disgruntled receiver, and I use that loosely, like quote-unquote disgruntled receiver. His last game, he had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But we see a guy like that and we go, oh my God, he wants out. He's not happy. He's gonna be a distraction. Because the last time we had a guy this talented at the wide receiver position, it was T.O., and he was a distraction. What about A.J. Brown makes you think he's a distraction? Well, because he's reading a book on the sidelines? Nothing has made you think he is a distraction. Nothing. Is he happy that he's not getting the ball? I don't know if any wide receiver is happy they're not getting the ball. No wide receiver wants to go out there and be king cardio, okay? But once again, his last game, he got the ball. He produced big time. So I don't get this sense that A.J. Brown is going to his agent saying, get me out of this winning situation in Philadelphia. Please get me to Carolina. No, I don't get that sense. But this also goes to the Myles Garrett situation. You know, you'll have the John Clarks of the world rushing to their Twitter account to report that the Eagles are interested in Myles Garrett because he knows that it's going to be retweeted a billion times. It's called engagement farming. He gets his Twitter followers up. He gets a bunch of engagement from it. He also knows that the odds of the Eagles getting Myles Garrett are slim and none. Are the Eagles interested in Myles Garrett? Yeah. Just like the Patriots are interested in A.J. Brown. Why wouldn't they be? Myles Garrett is one of the best, if not the best, defensive ends in all of football. They should be interested. They should be making that phone call. And the Cleveland Browns, who call it what you want, it's delusion, but they still think that they can compete and they're going to do it with Myles Garrett. They did just extend him in the offseason. Do I expect the Eagles to pull off a trade for Myles Garrett? No, I don't. Do I expect the Eagles to make a phone call? Yeah, I do. If they made a phone call on Micah Parsons, they're going to make a phone call on Myles Garrett. That doesn't mean that the team is trading him. So all of this, the Diana Rossinis of the world tweeting out about A.J. Brown, and then the John Clarks of the world, reporting on a report. It's nonsense. It's noise. It's nothing. Furthermore, let's just dive into the moves that Howie Roseman makes. Are they ever the big splashy move that is predicted? No, it's not. No one predicted Jay Ajayi. No one predicted Kevin Byard. No one predicted Robert Quinn. No one predicted A.J. Brown. The moves that he makes, he moves in the shadows. That's what he does. He loves the fact that people are going, oh, you think I'm over here? Guess what? Well, while you think I'm over here. And he always ends up getting somebody, but it's never the guy that you're actually thinking is available or you expect. That's what Howie does. So I know that people will get excited on one hand and go, oh my God, they're interested in Myles Garrett. Can you imagine if Myles Garrett was on? Yeah, that's a wet dream right there. Myles Garrett on the defense, love it. You know what's more realistic? Somebody who's a former Pro Bowler, who probably topped out at like 12 and a half sacks in their career, who's on the back end of their career, for a 5th round pick. That's more realistic. And that's what Howie Roseman's probably going to do to shore up the defensive end position. Not Myles Garrett, not 3 first-round picks, and it's not for lack of trying. I'm sure he made a phone call. I'm very positive he made a phone call. Because as Mike Mayock told you in a podcast with Chris Long, Howie's one of those guys that will just, quote-unquote, check in on you. He'll just make a phone call. He'll get bored and he'll just go, let me call the guy in Miami. Well, let's see what's going on there. Oh, hey, by the way, are you interested in moving so-and-so? Like, he routinely does that. Because it's of his best interest. He's never satisfied with the roster. Everybody knows that. But this big game of hunting that people think is going on with Myles Garrett, while I think he made a phone call, I don't think that they're seriously interested in trading Myles Garrett at this point. And you know what? If that changes, if all of a sudden their tune changes and they go, you know what? Yeah, we are interested in trading Myles Garrett, I expect Howie to be there. But right now, everything they're telling you is, no, we're not interested. That doesn't mean Howie can't make a phone call. Just like it doesn't mean that the Patriots can't make a phone call on A.J. Brown. This is what the media does. The media will put out a report knowing full well that you will bite it hook, line, and sinker instead of sitting back and going, wait, does this have a realistic possibility of happening? And the answer oftentimes is no. So in this case, does A.J. Brown have a realistic chance of being traded at the deadline? Fuck and no. Does Myles Garrett have a realistic chance of being an Eagle by the deadline? Fuck and no. Will Howie Roseman make a deal by the deadline to shore up a defensive end position or maybe another position? Yes and yes. That's it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall in the trap. Don't smash that retweet button on John Clark's stuff because you just can't wait to sit there and make yourself believe that the Eagles are going to shore up the position by getting Myles Garrett. Don't fall for it. Go Birds. And now's the part where I ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you like this. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought that I sucked for whatever reason. I get it. I'm pretty self-aware. But I do need subscribers, so if you could subscribe. Not asking you to ever watch another video again. Just subscribe. And then as always, as I said, go Birds.